Today, we are going to have a presentation from Kalli Jones, who is also running for position 7, and I would like to introduce her.
Good morning, Rotary. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. This is my very first time ever doing something like this, so it's nice to see some familiar faces out there. I just wanted to thank your group, first of all, for being such a great group in the community. I have to piggyback off of what Ann said about recognizing and helping kiddos get involved at a young age. I had the honor to be recognized as the Rotary Student of the Month when I was here in Port Angeles in high school. And then I believe I also received a scholarship from your group and went out and lived and came back. So here I am, and I want to thank you for that. So again, my name is Kalli Jones. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a local girl. I was raised here in Port Angeles. I'm a part of a pretty big family here in town. Both my parents were raised here. But anyway, so I went through Queen of Angels School and then graduated Port Angeles again in 2003. And after that, went directly to St. Martin's University in Lacey, where I got my degree in biology. And then from there to Nashville, Tennessee, to Vanderbilt University School of Nursing, where I got my master's in nursing. And at the age of 24, I started practicing as a primary care pediatric nurse practitioner, a mouthful, in a rural community there in Middle Tennessee. So I did that for about 9 years before my husband and I decided it was time to move home and raise our family. My husband is not from here, but that was part of the conversation before we got married. I said, hey, look, I'm moving back home to have a family. Is that a deal breaker? Was not. So here we are, and currently I am a stay-at-home mom of 5. I've stepped back. I've stepped back currently from the workforce to be present with my children and raise my children. Their ages from 9 to 1. I've got 4 boys and a girl, so I'm pretty busy. I spend a lot of my time in the kitchen making dinner. But anyway, so the reason you might, wonder why am I running for council? Well, love this town. This is my hometown, and I've got a lot of skin in the game, or a lot of little skins in the game. My siblings are all here in Port Angeles as well, raising their children, and they're all kind of growing up together. We're raising them together, which is a really cool thing to be doing. But so the future of Port Angeles in the community is definitely something that I'm concerned about and invested in. So that's really why I'm running for council. And I had the opportunity to be able to step away when I went to college and lived in Tennessee. And when I came back home to visit over the years, I felt like there was a slow decline, if you will, in the spirit of Port Angeles, the community, the streets a little bit, things just seem to be a little bit marching south, if you will. So that's one of the reasons also that I feel motivated to show my kids, you can be the change that you want to see in the community. So things that I think I can bring to the table that are a little bit unique are my time as a nurse practitioner or working in a healthcare facility, if you will, and as a mother. Those roles are really good at triaging, like what's important right now, what do we need to pay attention to right now, and I think the community as a whole is looking for that. Like, let's get back to the basics, let's get back to our priorities and take care of what needs to be taken care of currently. So I'm happy to start taking questions.
I'm here to moderate a forum, but the other person isn't here. Very disappointing. Anybody have any first questions? Let me ask, to start it off, what do you think are the two biggest challenges for the employer? How do you think they should be addressed? The biggest challenges, what are the biggest problems, the biggest challenges?
Okay, so the two biggest challenges and how I think they should be addressed. So, obviously, I think there's an outcry currently about, housing. There's not enough beds currently for, visitors and for families trying to move here. And the other thing is, homelessness, which I believe is, we'll just go with that. I believe is actually a symptom of the bigger problem, which is drugs. I believe that Port Angeles has a crisis with drugs, and I'm particularly sensitive to that, having been in medicine, but also having young children, feeling like the drugs are on the street. They are getting closer and closer to our families, closer and closer to young children. I did a ride along the other day, and one of the gals, well, the gal was arrested, and she was using fentanyl. She had been for years, and she was only 23. So that was very sad to see. And the other problem, housing. Port Angeles is unique, and I think what gives us our charm is also what causes a headache in terms of housing, and it's our geography. Where we live, we're kind of wedged in between the mountains and the waters there. We only have an option to build out or to build up, really at this point. So that's something that I am hopeful that we can do something about.
What do we need to do?
What do we need to do?
What do we need to do?
Well, we need to do. I think something that the council did well was recently they tried to get rid of some of the regulations to building like multi-unit housing here in town. Regulations are a big deal, but why is nobody wanting to come in and build? Cost is an issue. We can't really lower the cost of materials. So regulations, we can decrease regulations. We can try and work our infrastructure to be ready to build when people want to come in and build. I know, like the sewer, there was a presentation at City Council recently about the sewers, the wastewater system, being fairly out of date. So we can focus on things like that to be ready to build.
That's one thing. What about homelessness? What would you do as a city council member? What do you think needs to be done? What has the council done? You would do. What
I would do, if I was a czar for the day, and money wasn't an issue, I would love to make 4 to 10 new positions on the police force, and to also give the police the ability to make more arrests. I think that their hands are tied a little bit in their ability to make arrests in the community. And I say that again, from a nursing perspective. I think with this homelessness, the drug use is really causing a lot of it, and people need the ability to dry out, if you will. Sometimes being arrested and put in jail is the only way that will happen for them. I say that in the most loving way. I've got a sister-in-law, and a strange sister-in-law who is she's homeless and she's a drug user, and really at this point for her only hope to break the cycle is if she ends up going to jail, unfortunately, that gives them the chance to kind of reality sets in when they're not able to get the drugs, and either look for help, ask for help, or be forced to participate in a chemical program to help them medically get off drugs.
You're recommending increasing the policing staff. How's that going to be paid for?
That's a very good question. So, first of all, I think with the overtime, I think the money there is being used poorly. All of the police are working overtime. Most of them are working mandatory overtime. The gentleman I rode with, he said he's worked mandatory overtime every day since April, every day that he's worked. So I think if we reallocate several other commissioned officer positions, that, money that's been in overtime, which is a lot of time, time and a half or double time, you know, that itself could pay for, new positions in the police force. I'm not sure how many, I haven't looked at the numbers.
Another question.
Right.
Commissioner.
Well, first off, as someone who has been the only person in forum, I know it's not as easy as it looks. You don't have any time to think. So talking about infrastructure, so you talked about that sewer presentation. Did they talk about revenue options? And would you support, I think they had talked about increasing the transportation benefit district sales tax. Would you support that? Is that a good revenue option to fund the infrastructure improvements that we need?
I think, if I'm correct, is that what they're voting on here next week?
That's right, that's Tuesday.
The sales tax increase?
Right.
Okay, yes, I think they're voting on that next week. I'm a little torn because of the way that they're doing that, that they're just making the decision to do that instead of bringing that, you know, to a vote. Right off, personally, I probably would vote to, let the people vote on that. I do recognize the wisdom in it, though, trying to catch the tourists that are coming into town. You know, that's fantastic, but then again, you know, from my perspective, from a mom's perspective, you know, when we need more money, I can't just go have my husband go get a raise, you know, we need more money. So I'm trying to work with what we have, you know, consider different things that potentially we could get rid of, you know, but essentially, yes, I would support that.
I commend you for doing the ride along. I think it's important to get to the grassroots. What other relationships or connections, networks have you made with other existing council members and city entities?
I'm sorry, I forgot that I haven't been repeating the question. So, what other relationships have I made with other council members or city entities? I have not made any other relationships with current council members. I have with some past council members. There's several of them that I attend church with. For current entities, I've met with Mr. Healy, the Director of Public Works, which was great because that's about half of the city. You know, he's in charge of, well, his department, you know, employs about half of the city. So it was good to hear about the utilities and kind of some misconceptions there about how money can be used with utilities. And then I met with Corey Delicott. He runs the Parks Department. So that was interesting to hear about their employees, their struggles with getting bodies to work, having people come work seasonal, particularly. I know the flowers are a big concern downtown. So getting people to work. And then I've met with Chief Smith. That was a great talk to have with him. I think that's it so far in terms of department heads. And I did the right along. Yeah.
You got it already. Got it? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask how you would be supportive of encouraging different agencies or different, say, grants. You could come in and help with housing issues, specifically building, you know, more living structures, maybe dwelling structures, or like you say, I'll just use the term like a halfway house for some of these people that are coming out of recovery to help with that problem. Because Oxford, you guys are aware of Oxford House. They have some related places, but they always have waiting lists for people to come in. So we can identify the problem, but how is the city helping us help move that forward to become beds available for people that are trying to stay safe?
It's a great question. So how could we make beds available for other people who are looking to stay sober? I would love to be a part of that solution, whatever that is, because you know, forgive me, I don't have all the answers yet. But you know, is it regulations? Is it finance? Is it money? I would love to help that recovery because, as many of you know, this is a lifelong recovery kind of journey for these people. It's not just a one and done. thanks, bye, see you later. I am not a fan though of, I guess this is a little bit different, of handouts currently, if you will. I do not believe that is helping people, giving them a tent, giving them clean needles, that kind of thing. I don't believe that's getting at the root of the problem. So I would do away with that and then definitely do what I can, to be able to help people come out on the other side. But like I said, I don't have a specific for you. I'm sorry, but I would be very supportive of ideas that are brought to the table, if you will.
Yes, it seems like your proposal to address addiction, is just to incarcerate people. What evidence do you have that's been effective, in reducing drug use?
That's a good question. So, what evidence do I have that it will be effective in reducing drug use? I really think it's more anecdotal. My brother is a paramedic in SQUIM, and we've talked extensively about this, and also with Chief Smith. He mentioned that Amy Miller has also been supportive of this. Basically, what happens is chemically, like from a medical standpoint, they need to be able to stop the drug, stop the addiction. And I don't have any evidence per se. There might be some out there, but what else is going to basically make that stop? Like, how are they going to be able to get out of the situation that they're in? A lot of times it's kind of a home situation, there could be domestic abuse, violence, that kind of thing. It just gets really hairy. And I think being able to be incarcerated, for however long that is, it provides that stop for people.
Over here.
One of the big issues that I think the city continuously faces is around transportation. Basically because there's one way in and out of the city. And all the trucks, all the tourists, all the commuters have to run that same route. And I know that there will be a couple of fairly large projects down in the waterfront. Some of the environmental cleanup efforts that are going on, and there will be thousands of truckloads, heavy trucks, in and out. So I guess, what are your thoughts about that in general? And then specifically, how can we coordinate that with the State Department of Transportation to maintain reasonable traffic flow? This summer was a good example where it took me half an hour to get from the east to the west side of the city because of all of the road closures all at the same time. Just try this route, can't go that way, you have to detour around, and it was ridiculous. So how can we better coordinate the flow of traffic through the city?
That's a great question. How can we better coordinate the flow of traffic through the city? That's challenging. Funny thing, so my dad's a truck driver and I have worked road construction, so I can kind of see all the different angles. It's frustrating living here on the peninsula in the summertime because that's when road construction is done, and you're just trying to live your life and you can't get anywhere. So I don't have a good answer for that, to be honest with you. That's not something that I have addressed yet, but I will do my very best, Norm, to consider that, and work with the agencies that we need to work with. I don't have a good answer for that for you right now. I'm sorry, but thank you for bringing it up. It's an issue, yeah.
Adam, did you have a question?
Yeah, and thank you for being here. Seems like one of the toughest things that politicians are asked to do is change their minds. When you run for office, I imagine you get support from people who agree with you and believe in the same thing you believe in. And sometimes once you get into office, you find out that there's piece of information you didn't have, and you have to reconsider that position and bring a tough message back to your base. Can you talk about a time that you've had to do that? Maybe not as an elected official, but in your personal life, change your mind and then explain to people who you now disagree with why you changed your mind?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So is there a time in my life I've had to reconsider, basically, and change my mind? Some would say eat crow, yes, this, example might not be favorable, but, in my daily life, I've got 5 little children, and I'm not very popular with them a lot of times, making tough decisions. It's hard to hear, "You're mean, you always tell us no," that kind of thing, but also, to be able to, it's a little bit of a pride thing sometimes, but to be able to admit to my 9-year-old that you were right, I was wrong. I didn't consider that angle. I hadn't talked to Dad first, and I'm sorry, and this is the direction we're gonna go. So yes, I have experienced that, just not in a, I guess, political or professional setting, but I do have lots of practice, being humble, if you will, as a mom.
As a native going back several generations, I'd like to get your perspective on an aspect of the housing accessibility issue, which is how much of a factor do you think NIMBYism is in our town?
I'm not familiar with that.
Not in my backyard.
Why don't you give her an example of that?
Okay, so let's say I have invested my life savings and most of my personal worth in my house, and I'm very protective of it, and I've worked on it for years, and now suddenly, it seems suddenly, because I wasn't paying attention, there's going to be a multi-story apartment building going in next door to my house, and I'm freaked out about my property value. And I will go storming down to yell at you guys at the council that this is unfair, this is terrible, you're ruining my property, the blah, blah, blah. That's one form of NIMBYism that can happen. And that gets laid off against, like, well, these people have to live somewhere. So how would you address that? And how much do you think that applies in our town?
Well, NIMBYism, I'm sorry, I've not heard that term before.
You'll hear it a lot.
Okay. It's kind of a small, I think it's an issue, kind of a small town thing. This is the way we've done it. This is the way we've always done it. I own this town, kind of, whatever that mentality is. That's gonna be an issue that I'm sure if I get the chance to come up, be on the council, that I will deal with, and that will probably be uncomfortable, but not there to make comfortable decisions, right? I would be there to make decisions of what's best for Port Angeles.
So you see it as a balance.
Absolutely, balance. The whole thing is a balance. Listen, I might not have all the answers, but I'll tell you, I'm a very good listener. I can be a good listener and learn, and I'm trying my very best to fire hose. It's like drinking from a fire hose, to soak it all in currently. So, I can be good ears for you guys.
Scott, Kelly actually answered one of my questions earlier, but just as a compliment, we appreciate you being a hometown girl and your family here doing this. And it's obvious to me that you put a lot of work into preparing yourself running, talking to throughout town. And I just, hopefully you'll get in there. And I'm just going to throw this out to you and Mike. One thing with swim that, they had the dairy farm feeding ground, they had to think about how they're going to have a resurgence. And I think Port Angeles itself, I'm graduating high school here, and I'm with the exact same views that I would like to see a resurgence Port Angeles has really changed. And I think, in terms of thinking out of the box, the commission, where you look at everything that's doable in terms of serious investments for outsiders. And take a look at it and see, this is what Port Angeles can do. And gearing towards that investment. Because you see a lot of investments coming up, but it's not harming us towards the end goal. You got the field music hall, you got hotels coming in, but it's kind of patchwork. Where Squid did this, and they did it a long time ago, and you can see the results now with the lavender farms. They nailed it. And Squid is doing really well because of that. Where they put their own mark on the map for taking that decision. But it started with an independent commission, an independent body that looked at everyone. And I mean, that may be happening, I don't know, but I think there's a need.
What specific questions?
There's not a question.
If I could.
It's just kind of a thought towards our leaders that, I think it's needed, for a real surge and investment in plotting a new future that really puts Port Angeles on the map, other than coming in from Seattle. No, this is Port Angeles overall.
How are you asking her whether there's.
So so the question is if would you support an independent commission that would be unleashed? And if you could, how would you put that commission together?
To improve the city.
Right? No, I'm not. I don't know.
The chairman's right over there.
Wait, there's a group called Elevate TA. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
That's what they do. And are you familiar with Elevate TA?
Not as well, I'm not. That's, I would definitely support that group. It sounds like they're already out there, but I think what you're getting at, I think probably maybe the magic that happened there in Squim is, like you had mentioned, the patchwork. So there's different organizations trying to, better the community. But I think what made it work in Squim is everybody can participate, if you will. A lot of people can grow lavender, and a lot of people can do the honey and open their farms. Whereas here, we all can't grow crab. Not that the crab fest is a bad thing, but like what could Port Angeles offer? What could the locals offer? What's kind of magic about Port Angeles that we could really kind of come together and make our mark? It's something great to think about.
I understand the concept. When I was back near Chicago, I lived in neighborhood that was a little town, and they at one point decided they were going to be like this gaslight village, and they came around and gave me the awnings, and they had painted in other places like this, put the gas lights all over. They developed the rivers on it. That city went from 20,000 to about 150,000. It's the Silicon Valley of the Midwest. So it kind of worked like in Leavenworth or something. I was talking, we were actually in Wenatchee a little while ago, and they're very lucky. They had an old steel mill downtown that got abandoned, and they built it into like a farmer's market, which are up market, and it's got bars and restaurants and oil and wine, vinegar tasting thing, and a bike rental. It's a very cool space. And I was talking with the Chamber of Commerce about Field Hall, and then just east of that, the alley, and then it could be developed into something potentially like that. So we have so many people going through this to the National Park, around the Olympic Peninsula, or to Victoria. They just tend to go through. If you can catch them and have them stay for a little bit, then I think Field Hall's good, it's a start. But if you have like a nightlife place to hang out, you come out of Field Hall, hey, it's 9 o'clock, let's go. Everything is closed.
Do you have a question on
Would you be supportive of something like that? What do you think the city could do to promote something like that?
That's a great idea. Yes, I would be supportive of that. You know, growing up, I remember Derby days. You know, that was a great memory for me as a child. You know, maybe things were still kind of dysfunctional, but as a child, I didn't notice that. Nightlife might be good. I am huge on family life, like, like, what can we do for the families here? The families of young children. The family is the bedrock of society. So, you know, maybe going that way, coupled with the nightlife, but absolutely I would be supportive to, you know, need to shock some life back into town.
Do you have a question, Grant?
I have a really easy question.
Go for it.
I'm back on transportation. The city has spent a lot of money, printing up, beautifying, making complicated boulevard, William Street, Upper Razor. And we have roads that aren't paved, that are full of holes. Where would you spend your transportation?
On the basics, that's what I mean, kind of going back to the basics instead of getting kind of hairball ideas to, like, you know, let's beautify this, or let's make this right turn more difficult, you know, put a concrete barrier. I'm not a fan. You know, I'm sure there's a logic behind that, but I would really, in terms of city resources, go back to the basics, fix what needs to be fixed. And then at that point, you know, we can work on other big projects, but, you know, especially with like I said, my dad is a truck driver. I'm sensitive to roads particularly. So.
So we're reaching our end of the end cycle there. We think in about 2 minutes, can you sum up why you should vote for you?
Why you should vote? Well, you should vote for me because I am the part of the spirit of Port Angeles. You know, as the American dream, you see, I'm just kind of going off the cuff here. Being able to grow up in your hometown, leave, get, you know, professional, whatever kind of experience, come back, make the town better. That is where I am at. Personally, I want to be the change that I want to see in the community. So that's why I'm giving a stab at this. And like I said, I am not a politician. So I will not have really slick answers for you. But like I said, I can be a very good listener and a good learner, and I can be ornery. And I think that's important. And just going back to the basics, I wanna kind of be ornery for my people, you know, for my community. And that's why I think that you should vote for me. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.